Now something a little bit different for you today, and this won't work if you don't all join in, so please leave your comments below. I was laid awake last night, and being the sad individual I am, I started to wonder what 3 watches I would keep in my collection if I was only allowed so many. Now these 3 watches have to accompany my present collection, and not the 3 you'd most like if money was no object. As well as the 3 I've chosen, and believe me it wasn't easy, I will also show you a few that nearly made the cut. For obvious reasons, the 3 watches have to meet certain criteria, and if I'm honest, I would like to have added a quartz to the selection, but none of the quartz watches I own quite met the bill. Now if I owned a 39mm Longines Conquest VHP, and that was a mouthful, I'm sure I would have added that to the list, but I don't. However, it's a long year ahead, so who knows what's going to happen. My first one was the easiest to choose as it's probably my favourite watch at the moment. It's the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander GMT. I own 3 Chris Ward watches and love the brand from the designs right through to the logo on the dial. I believe the quality of their watches matches up to Swiss brands costing an awful lot more. Now this particular model has got a 39mm case, it's got a sapphire crystal both front and back, and an accurate Sellita SW330 GMT automatic caliber. It's got this fantastic light catcher case with its polishing and its fine brushing, and this great tight strap which doesn't just look good, it's very comfortable. Now if the worst did come to the worst and I was restricted just to 3 watches, I would probably treat myself to a bracelet just as a second option. Now I particularly love this green dial with its unusual texturing and its pattern, and I think the orange GMT hand sets it off beautifully. So that's the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander GMT. Now a few that didn't quite make it. I absolutely love my Seiko Alpinist with its mounting glacier dial. Unfortunately, being a Seiko means it's probably a little bit overpriced, and it's not spec'd particularly well either. The internal bezel tends to move on its own because Seiko didn't make it a screw down. I'm not a great fan of that 6R35 movement either, and I can't help thinking it's just an NH35 with a longer power reserve. And whilst the bracelet and clasp are reasonable, they certainly aren't anything to write home about. All that said, it's very comfortable and it looks great on the wrist. Those of you who watch my channel will know I own an investment watch, a Rolex Oyster Perpetual. To be honest, the watch is faultless. The finishing is superb, the bracelet and the clasp are top notch, and its in-the-house movement only gains a second every 4 days. However, if I were to wear every 3 days, it would end up looking like a bag of nails, and I'd never forgive myself for that. I also considered this Glycine Airman. The Airmans are a distinctive design and are beautifully made. This is a double 12 with what they call the GL224 movement, which in reality is an ETA 2825. Now in my opinion, the ideal size for this watch would have been a 38mm, but as they don't actually make one, I bought the closest thing, which is a 40mm. For that reason I decided it couldn't make the top 3. I'm no fan of chronographs, but ironically I love this one, and it's one of those watches I keep glancing down at when I'm wearing it. Now it's got an accurate Seiko VK64 quartz movement, and it wears smaller than its 39mm case suggests. Unfortunately Yema decided to put a mineral crystal on it, so if I wore it on a regular basis, I know I'd scratch it. So my second keeper would be my Tudor Black Bay 36. I don't consider Tudor to be a luxury brand as such, and it probably sits a tier below. In actual fact, I would argue that this particular watch, when purchased new, is possibly a tad overpriced. But it's gorgeous. It's both sporty but still understated. It's got a top grade Sellita movement that runs within cost, although it's not actually cost certified. The bracelet and clasp are as good as my Rolex, and the lume on this thing is completely bonkers. It's a watch that I'm proud to own, and it's a favourite amongst many enthusiasts. Before I get onto my third watch, I just want to show you a few others I seriously considered. Now I didn't include a dive watch, but if I had, it either would have been one of my Christopher Wards or this Perenera Rogue. This is a Romanian brand, but it's made in Switzerland. These are pretty few and far between, and I love that unusual dial colour and the ceramic surround to the bezel. My only criticism would be its slightly long lug to lug, but I believe that's got something to do with its vintage vibe. I also seriously considered my Ball Fireman Nightbreaker. In actual fact, If it were a millimetre smaller and it didn't have a butterfly clasp, I suspect it may have been chosen. It's got this gorgeous Galoo style with its T25 tritium tubes, and its Sellita SW200 movement makes it one of the most accurate in my collection. I would also like to put a good word in for my Zelos Horizons 39, although never a serious contender. You see, it's technically excellent. The case matches up with my Christopher Ward Sealander, the loom is good as my Tudor Black Bay 36, and the bracelet with its on-the-fly clasp is absolutely fantastic. Now, it's one of 2 Zelos watches I own, and I would happily recommend that brand. So last but not least, and this was the hardest choice to make. Now, as you can see, I'm holding 2 watches, but only one has been chosen. Now, I recently bought this Atticus Meteora, and I absolutely love it. The finishing is excellent considering the price, and it's my Ota 9000 series movement is very accurate. However, it was pipped at the post by this second-hour Mandala. The Mandala has the same movement, but I feel the case is a little bit more complex, and it's got the benefit of a scratch-resistant coating. Now, I waited over a year before I could find a good one at the right price, and it so happened the colour of my choice was available, although these are made with several other dial options. It really is a very well made watch, and it wears a few millimetres smaller than its 40mm measurement indicates. Once again, I very much want to hear about the 3 watches you would have chosen if it were you, and I'd like to know what you think of the 3 that I've chosen. That brings me to the end of this video, so if you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy the rest of your day.